Hey everyone, welcome back to the finale of the 70-200 showdown between Canon, Nikon and Tamron f2.8 stabilized lenses. If you haven't seen the first three parts, revise them with the links that are on screen now and let's jump into it. So in this one, I'm going to run through a couple of things that we missed along the way and give an overall conclusion with star rating, so stick around for it. First of all, I got lots of requests to include bokeh balls. I covered bokeh in the earlier video, but here I've got some out of focus lights. Let's test each of the three lenses.
Okay, here we are on the Canon to kick things off. This one has 8 rounded aperture blades. Generally, more blades means a softer and more circular bokeh. As we throw this out of focus, looks good, fairly circular, not perfectly. The ones on the left, you have to keep in mind that the shape of the bokeh will depend on the angle that the light's hitting you and the light source itself. A little bit of unusual ring on the outside of those circles you can see on the right hand side there, but certainly that would make for a pleasing out of focus background for a portrait. Okay, here we are with the Tamron. Now let's throw it out of focus. This one has 9 rounded aperture blades, and looking at the street light, which is right in the very center of frame, and then the car lights that are in the center of frame, beautifully circular. The ones on the edge taking on a funny shape due to the angle like the Canon. This one also has a slight ring around the edge of the bokeh, but not quite as pronounced, and none of the onioning effect that was present on some of the 24-70s. Okay, next up is the Nikon Nikkor, also 9 blades, throwing it out. Yeah, look, it's still really nice. It does look like there's more little dots in that one, moving through some of the balls. What can I say? Of course, I love a ball comparing session as much as the next guy. But they're all really nice. I would say this one and the Tamron are most circular, but they're all quite good quality. I'm just surprised with the Nikon here having so many little dots in it. I'm not sure, but maybe that's to do with it having a slightly dirty sensor.
Is that enough balls for you? I hope so. Next up, let's look at the focus breathing on each three of these lenses. Okay, here we are at 70mm on the Tamron. Let's check out the focus breathing. There we are at closest focus, and there we are at infinity focus. One more time, closest and infinity. Only a tiny amount of difference on that guy. Okay, here we are on the Canon. There we are at closest focus, and there we are at infinity. Significant focus breathing even at 70mm on this guy. Okay, and the Nikkor at 70mm. There we are at closest focus and furthest focus. Much less than Canon, maybe a little bit more than Tamron though.
Here they all are side by side, and you can see just by the amount of movement back and forward on the center frame, the Canon, it has by far the most focus breathing at 70mm.
Here we are with the Canon at 200mm, going from closest focus to infinity focus. Closest focus to infinity focus. Huge amount of focus breathing. Here we are on the Tamron. Check out those Jordan kicks. Add closest focus and furthest focus. Still a fair bit of focus breathing on this guy, but smokes the Canon. Okay, here we are on the Nikon at closest focus and at furthest focus. So again, quite a bit.
At 200mm, it's quite clear that Nikon has the least focus breathing, then Tamron, and then Canon has by far the most. Surprising, really.
I'm very fortunate to have had a full month of hands-on testing to compare these three lenses, and I have to say they genuinely all are great lenses. It's not just being a fanboy when someone yells out, nothing can touch the Canon, nothing can touch the Nikon, nothing can touch the Tamron, because it probably just means that they own it and they are vouching for it. And I can vouch now for all three of these that they are great lenses. They do have their plus and minuses between the different ones, and through this showdown it's been the Tamron and Canon that are most comparable, because they've both been shot consistently on the Canon 1DX at the same settings, whereas the Nikkor has been shot on the Nikon D800. Again, I wasn't able to get the Sigma for tests. Sigma weren't able to make that available to me, so sorry about that one. But for the first time, I want to introduce and give star ratings to these guys. Now, I think star ratings can be a little bit tacky, but it's also a good way to just quickly quantify it. I've come up with my own scale that I'll use moving forward, and I've actually split it in two because I think the way that you should weight the importance of different features varies. Broadly speaking, I'm going to split these in terms of pro and enthusiasts in terms of my review. For pro, how I'm going to do the weighting is image quality out of 10, build quality out of 10, how it is in the hand out of 5, and value 5. So, and then out of those, I'll take an average and then give it a star rating out of 5 in quarter increments. Now for enthusiasts, I actually switched that a little bit, and I've actually brought the build quality from 10 down to 5 and the value from 5 up to 10, because I think build quality is really important if you're out there every day making your living with it, and value is really important if you're not making a living from your equipment. So without further ado, let me tell you my final ratings for these guys. First of all, let's go with the Canon. The Canon is an absolute beast. I think out of all of them, it's the best built and it is the most expensive out of all three of the lenses. It is the only one that only has 8 rounded aperture blades though. So for image quality, I'm giving this 8.5. It performs really, really well. It's a good, consistent performer. That said, actually the Tamron outshone it on a couple of tests. For build quality, I'm giving this a 9.5 out of 10, highest rating of any of the ones that I'm testing here. In the hand, 4.5 out of 5, no complaints whatsoever. A little bit heavy, that's the only thing, but that's a fair price to pay. And then value 4. It is the most expensive one, but it is a fantastic lens. So that gives it a total score of 4.5 stars. My first ever lens review, and that's for Pro, 4.5 star. Now for the Nikkor, I'm also giving it 8.5 out of 10 for image quality. I would say it's the most consistent performer out of all of them. No strong vignetting, no strange things going on at all, and it's just a really fantastic overall performer. Build quality 9 out of 10, so just slightly behind the Canon. In the hand, 4.5, just as good as the Canon. It's just a dream to shoot with. Value, I'm giving this one a 4 as well. It's $100 or a bit different depending on your country to the Canon, but still fantastic. And that also, it comes out at 4.33, so overall a 4.5 star as well. Finally, the Tamron. Now, I have to say, I'm really happy to see Tamron stepping up their game. It's good to see more third-party manufacturers taking it up to Canon and Nikon and Sony and all of those guys. Their 24-70 already impressed me, but this one, if you've tried the 24-70, believe me when I say this takes it to a whole new level. The build quality is through the roof and the optics are another step up again. So for that, on image quality, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10, whereas I gave these both an 8.5. So why am I putting this behind? Only because of the vignette, which is quite heavy, much heavier than the other two. That said, in micro contrast and sharpness, I think it actually outperformed the Canon in a couple of the tests. So if it wasn't for the vignetting, I think this one would be right up there with them, maybe even a hair ahead of the Canon. Build quality, I'm giving this one an 8.5 out of 10. It has slightly more plastic than the other two. Some lens repairers have said that's actually a good thing if it's high quality plastic because it tends to flex rather than dent or break, but it's right up there. Just giving it a slightly lower score to note that it's not quite as robust as the other ones, but still really good. In the hand, I'm giving this 4.25. The VC is astonishing, as good or better than the other two. It focuses damn near as quick. I really had no problems focusing with it, and I shot indoors, outdoors, concerts, events, sports, portrait shoots, all kinds of different things. The only reason I'm giving it a slightly lower mark is I really don't like how small the focus ring is on this one. The other two have big chunky focus rings, and this one's just really small and kind of I found a little bit difficult to work with. So quarter of a mark behind for that one. And finally, value, I'm giving this 5 out of 5. I didn't think I would give a full score to anything in any parameter, but considering that this one, say these in America at least, are $2,400, $2,500 for the Canon, this is $1,500. And the fact that it's right up there with them and $1,000 cheaper, I really can't think of too many lenses that offer better bang for buck than this guy. So overall, that gives it a neat 4.29, so a 4 1/4. So just slightly behind the other two, 4.29, 4.33, 4.42, so just slightly behind. But once you throw in the enthusiast mix where we devalue the build quality and increase the value of value, then suddenly this one comes to the top of the pile. That gives the Canon a 4.29 or a 4.25 rounded, exactly 4.25 for the Nikon, and 4.42 or 4.5 out of 5 for the Tamron. So you really need to, I'm confident on my scoring there, but you need to think about what you place the most value on. If you only care about image quality, don't care about how it is in the hand or the cost or those things, then that's the number you want to be looking at. So I'm giving all of these a 4.25 or 4.5 depending on which measure you're using out of 5. And for my standards, that's a really, really high standard. I think anything over 4 is excellent, and if we want to get into that sort of thing, that's a gold medal. To get over 4 out of 5 in my book is, I'm a pretty tough critic. And the only one that I gave full marks to on anything was the Tamron for value. Otherwise, there's always room to improve, right? Leave me any questions or comments. If you want to see any other showdowns, also fire away. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, check out Photo News and Reviews, check out the website, and also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that good stuff. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend you check out the first 3 parts of this series. Part 1, we look at all of the specs and compare them head to head. In part 2, it's all about stabilization and autofocus. And in part 3, we look at image quality, sharpness, bokeh, vignetting, and contrast. Check them out, guys. Thanks again.